Did you know that prior to the Great War, there was a telephone hotline where citizens could report their neighbors for exhibiting communist, treasonous, or other potentially harmful ideologies? A neighborly letter in Fallout 3 reveals that someone threatened to call said hotline over a Halloween costume, sending the child to an internment camp as the result. It's quite absurd, right? One phone call and bye-bye neighbor. But did you also know that what you or I might consider absurd isn't that far from reality? Welcome to yet another episode of Fallout IRL. This is the series where we take the events, people, and technology of the Fallout universe and go over their real-world counterparts. Today's episode covers the Red Scare and McCarthyism. Believe it or not, the exaggerated fear of socialist movements found in Fallout is actually based on real life. Let's get into it. So, what is the Red Scare? Well, in 1917, in the midst of World War I, Russia underwent a period of political and social change. This was dubbed the Russian Revolution. Russia got rid of its monarchy and adopted a socialist form of government. The revolution was quite rough and volatile, lasting for slightly more than 6 years. After much bloodshed, the former Russian Empire was now the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, or Soviet Union, or USSR. The success of the Russian Revolution and the disorder that the aftermath of World War I caused led to a revolutionary wave across Europe. This wave saw the end of the German Empire, the dissolution of Austria-Hungary, the creation of the Irish Free State, end of the Ottoman Empire, and the rise of fascism in Italy, all massive, world-altering movements spurred on by anti-colonial uprisings and unrest. And thus, we're brought to the first Red Scare. The Red Scare was a collective anti-radical hysteria experienced by American citizens around the 1920s. After World War I had ended, labor strikes rose to an all-time high, with more than 3,600 separate strikes happening in 1919. The press and media sensationalized these strikers as radical threats to American society who were inspired by left-wing foreign movements. It blamed immigrants for causing unrest and threatening the American way of life. Two notable acts that were passed during World War I to keep morale high, the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act, were used to control free speech and the media narrative. It would be on July 2nd, 1919, that the first Red Scare would truly kick off. 8 bombs targeting various anti-immigration government officials detonated simultaneously in 8 different cities. In response to these anarchist bombings, the government launched what was called the Palmer Raids, orchestrated by U.S. Attorney General Alexander Mitchell Palmer. They were violent law enforcement raids that targeted suspected leftist radicals and anarchists. These raids saw more than 5,000 American citizens jailed and 249 Russian immigrants deported. In the aftermath, several states enacted laws that would put limitations on free speech, leading to the jailing or deportation of those who were suspected of being either communist or just left-wing in general. The first Red Scare and anti-radical hysteria would quickly settle down after Palmer falsely predicted that radicals would attempt to overthrow the government on May 1st, 1920. The day came and went without incident, and anti-leftist hysteria settled for a time. Now this leads us to the second Red Scare, and notably, McCarthyism. When the United States entered World War II in 1941, they found themselves unexpected allies with the Soviet Union. However, almost immediately following the war, tensions between the US and USSR escalated. The two superpowers engaged in a series of what were mostly political and economic skirmishes known as the Cold War. As a result, once again, the fear of the spreading of communism became a major concern. as many Americans worried that communists were infiltrating American life. On March 21, 1947, President Truman signed Executive Order 9835, or the Loyalty Order. It required that all federal civil service employees be screened for loyalty. This meant that anyone who was discovered to have membership in, be affiliated with, or be sympathetic towards any groups deemed totalitarian, fascist, communist, or subversive were now at risk of being persecuted. This order came as a bit of a shock to many, as the United States prided itself on personal liberty and freedom of expression. But it wasn't only government workers that were threatened. The House Un-American Activities Committee, a committee of the U.S. House of Representatives designed to expose communists working inside the federal government or subversive elements working in Hollywood, was gaining momentum. Out of fear of negative publicity, movie executives curated blacklists that barred certain Hollywood actors, for example Charlie Chaplin, from employment. Folks were unable to make a living because others thought that they were socialist sympathizers. Now, this is where the McCarthy from McCarthyism comes in. Joseph McCarthy, a U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, emerged as a key figure during this time. McCarthy had a habit of levying accusations against his political opponents, claiming they were disloyal to America. He claimed to have a list of individuals within the U.S. government who were secretly communist or sympathetic to communism. These accusations were often sensationalized and lacked any substantial evidence. But they did accomplish one thing: it got people scared. McCarthy would host public hearings where he would question and accuse politicians, celebrities, and intellectuals without offering them a fair chance to defend themselves. This, quite often, cost many people their reputations and jobs. And while this nationwide anti-communist crusade did lead to the outing of some Soviet spies and conspirators, it came at a grave cost to individual liberties and freedoms. McCarthyism even spread beyond the senator, impacting the lives of regular, everyday people. Thousands of regular people who were accused of being communist sympathizers by their friends, acquaintances, and coworkers were hounded by police, alienated from their loved ones, and fired from their jobs. Many of these people would end up as victims of false accusations who had done nothing wrong other than exercise their democratic right to join a political party. So much for free speech. McCarthyism and the second Red Scare would finally quiet down a bit in a similar manner to the first. McCarthy's credibility would suffer a significant blow during the Army McCarthy hearings, where his aggressive tactics would be formally denounced by his colleagues. The Red Scare and McCarthyism is a dark moment in the history of the United States. A nation built on democratic freedoms and constitutional rights stifled its people and damaged the lives of many. Now, if we take a break from real life, we can see that evidence of the Red Scare and McCarthyism can be found all over the world of Fallout. It's common knowledge that the setting of Fallout is a retro-futuristic world whose technology has advanced tenfold, but other aspects have not. In pre-war America, people are living on edge, terrified of the looming nuclear apocalypse. This mirrors the real-life anxiety people felt during the Cold War. The fear of communist China becomes a driving force, leading the United States government and its citizens to engage in all sorts of various anti-communist actions. During the era of McCarthyism, fear and suspicion were rampant, leading to accusations without substantial evidence. Fallout mirrors this through the inclusion of a pre-war letter found in Fallout 3. As mentioned in the intro for this video, a neighborly letter can be found in a mailbox near Tenpenny Tower. It reads, "Samantha, I would never want to be known as a killjoy, and I realize your family is very much anticipating this year's Halloween. But if I see your little hooligan running and hollering across my yard in that Chinese commando costume of his again, I swear I'm reporting him to the Vigilant Citizens Hotline. You may find his cheekiness adorable, but perhaps you'll think differently when they haul your boy off to an internment camp with all the others he's so keen to give me a heart attack by impersonating. Yours most dearly, Gabriella. The letter demonstrates the sort of hostility your average citizen had for one another. It reflects the real-life blacklists that were used to bar suspected communists from employment and participating in society. In addition, it reveals the existence of the Vigilant Citizens Hotline. From what we know, in addition to a billboard found in Fallout 4, it would appear that the hotline was a toll number used to report individuals of being suspected communists. But that's not all. One of the other parallels in Fallout is the layer of government paranoia and secrecy. McCarthy and news outlets would often report that various government officials were communist spies or sympathizers, speculating that the United States government had been breached by a sort of secretive Soviet group. In Fallout, it's confirmed that there are secret fractions of the US government operating away from the public's eye. While it's not communist, the Enclave was working against the best interests of the general populace, commandeering the Vault project. The fear of communist infiltration was used to control and pacify the population. Pre-war America used propaganda posters to control information and maintain a facade of national unity. Fallout 4's anti-communist propaganda posters play a role akin to the real-world tactics employed during McCarthyism. By instilling a constant sense of fear and suspicion, the government in Fallout manipulates the narrative and suppresses dissent, similar to the methods of McCarthyism to control public perception. These posters played on the fear that ordinary people could be secret communists, creating a divisive us versus them mentality. The most extreme example within the Fallout universe is the use of internment camps designed to hold known and suspected communists. We've spoken about them before in other videos, but the Turtle Dove Detention Camp in Point Lookout and Little Yongsti Camp in the Big Empty were designed as prison camps for people of Chinese descent, suspected communist spies, and anyone who may exhibit seditious behavior. A terminal can be found at an unmarked location that mentions Presidential Executive Order 99066. This order would see the unlawful and unconstitutional detainment of those believed to be enemies of the United States. And even children in Fallout are not exempt from anti-communist indoctrination. A quiz for the Pioneer Scout Minor badge suggests that joining a labor union is the first step on the road to communism. This acts as a sort of callback to how the first Red Scare started, with labor strikes. And 2 holotape games portray communist China as the primary antagonist, the Donkey Kong clone Red Menace and the Missile Command clone Atomic Command. From a young age, children in pre-war America were taught that red equals bad. Just like in real-life history, the massive amount of distrust and fear towards anyone who showed a slightly more left-leaning political stance became known as traitors and radicals. To close out for today, it should come as no surprise that the pre-war world of Fallout was marred by fear and distrust. Thanks to geopolitical tensions, government interventions, and media influence, folks lived in a heightened state of fear. This was not dissimilar from real-life America in the aftermath of both world wars. Paranoia and fear dominated the public during the Red Scare and McCarthyism era. It's known that Fallout takes inspirations from real life, and the air of fear and public distrust is no different. Different times, different settings, but the same Red Scare. Thanks for listening. If you liked the video, be sure to share and subscribe. I want to know what are some other aspects of history that have found a spot in Fallout. Join the Discord. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
A communist, a spy, and a Chinese man walk into a bar. He orders a drink.